Hello, everyone, and welcome to Performance Anxiety's 21st online reading event, Blackjack. My name is Tom Snarsky, and I'm so excited to have the opportunity to host this utterly beyond amazing group of readers tonight. Just a quick bit of background before we begin and hear these wonderful poems. In case you haven't listened in before, Performance Anxiety is an online reading series hosted via Skype, usually on the third Thursday of every month at 9 p.m. Eastern, 8 p.m. Central. At each of our events, we normally feature up to 10 readers, who each have about 5 minutes to share a selection of their writing with us. Having all these slots every month means we're always looking for folks who'd be interested in reading. So if you are or know a poet or writer who'd be interested in sharing their work at a future event, you're more than welcome to get in touch with us via the Performance Anxiety Twitter account. That's at PERFORMANCEANXT on Twitter. Or you can DM the co-organizers directly. I'm Tom Snarsky at TOMSNARSKY on Twitter and Instagram. Or you can email me at tomsnarsky@gmail.com. You can also get in touch with Kristin Garth, our other co-organizer, who I'm also very excited to introduce as our first reader of the evening. So without further ado, let's hear some poems. Kristin Garth is a pushcart, Best of the Net, and Ristling-nominated sonnet stalker. Her sonnets have stocked journals like Glass, Yes, 521, Luna Luna, and more. She's the author of 17 books of poetry, including Candy, Cigarette, Woman, Child, Noir from Hedgehog Poetry Press, Flutter, Southern Gothic Fever Dream from Twisted Press, The Meadow, one of my personal favorites, from APEP Publications, and on December 14th, she'll be releasing the deluxe edition of Puritan U Succubus Alumnus, which is also with Hedgehog Poetry. She's the founder of Pink Plastic House, a tiny journal, and co-founder of this very online reading series, Performance Anxiety. Thanks, as always, Kristin, for being with us. I'm really excited to hear what you'll share this evening.
Thank you, Tom. First, I'm going to read a poem that I wrote called, it's a little bit about just the way, I guess, sometimes I've been made to feel, and it's a little bit heightened, but it's called Macabre Burlesque. I live in a genre the aged read. Decrepit men tell their mendacities before a final tomcat nap beneath cracked granite mausoleum roof. This squeezed social register, not quite weatherproof, trickles on nipples, a drooping sundress, exposes flesh, rose, only ghost reprove or molest. Witness this macabre burlesque. I am an offering the dying will request, supine on their crypts, completely undressed. Astride carved lids, contents can't feel, this quivered kiss, corporeal. Summon the naiad with your penultimate vermouth, same mutilated in your stupor of youth. And this next poem I'm going to read is from my, I actually wrote it yesterday, but I wrote it about the decision I made to go on to medicate my depression and anxiety. And it was a very heavy decision, and I've lived a lot of my life not doing that. And I grew up in a culture where that wasn't approved of to do that. And so, but I also grew up in a culture of a lot of abuse. And so this poem has, I put a content warning of like childhood sexual abuse because there are references to that. But anyway, to medicate or self-medicate in pastels. A dilemma, physician's office, predates a pandemic by just some weeks. Nervous ass crinkles paper, ghost sophist of panic attacks past, harass what leaks through ducts, expelled wet truce upon cheeks, tears thin paper, freckled fist, attempting to resist the gravity of pain. Its endless drips, despair you can't restrain. Before the blonde internist who looks like your Barbie dolls. Is that why you confess it all? Nights you cry yourself to sleep, indignities you push inside as deep as pastel kitchen knives. Bookshelf of broken hymen hymns, scribbled first at 5, about sad men who swallow you like pills, self-medicating like you never will. And the next poem I'm going to read is from Puritan U Succubus Alumnus, and it is a poem that Puritan You was published before, and it's getting reprinted with a new press hedgehog. And I got the opportunity to append a whole other book on it that it's kind of good because Puritan You is kind of a dark book in a way because it's about my childhood sexual abuse. But Succubus Alumnus is kind of about me like rediscovering my sexuality and defining myself. And so it's been nice to like put these two things together and show like a whole person. And now you find my, but anyway, this is a very sex positive lyrical sonnet. Because there's a blanket laid down in a breeze. Because in a meadow I found my knees. Because your breath against skin is gleams on Kelly green blades, sappy sounds, sunbeams, secret stickiness, splayed. Because your orbit is scented with honey and sand, your flutters my shuttered petals abuzz. Because both my wrists fit inside your hand, perpetual bud, but you understand. Because you are the stem beneath a pale peak of pink bloom, your verdant hand towards my own turquoise room unveiled. I am a bramble, and you are the buzz. You are inside me in springtime because. And so this next poem is from Girlarium, which is a manuscript I'm working on right now. And it's it kind of one at the end. This girl has been a captive for a while because she was afraid of the ocean, even though she has gills. But she was always as a human, and she doesn't, trust the ways of the ocean. But she makes the mistake of trusting men, and she realizes that mistake too. So this is a poem where she finally makes her way to the ocean. Also, wildflowers. Path to the ocean is pebbled, prolonged, perpetually painful, presumed passageways, wrong. The miles hobble, hinder the strong, even require havens to hide. Scavenge sustenance along the roadside. Also, wild flowers you wind around vine, each patch another adornment you find. Follow New England asters towards scarlet flax. Snatch lavender hyssops, corn poppies last, upon a journey of blisters and bloom. Petal crown you tie around your head, as vast as the cerulean currents that loom, require you suffered these steps, these hours, pain summon power. Also, wildflowers. Thank you.
Thank you very, very much, Kristin, for leading us off tonight. And that again was Kristin Garth, not only poet, but also co-organizer of Performance Anxiety. So if you want to get in touch with Kristin in any of those capacities, you can follow her on Twitter at LolaAndJolie, LOLAANDJOLIE, and tell her how great her poems are, or get in touch about reading at Performance Anxiety, or both. And you can find information about all of Kristin's projects ongoing. She's one of the most prolific, impressively prolific poets I know. So to keep up with her various exploits, you can follow them at Kristin Garth, KristinGarth.com. So, wow, yeah, I'm always excited to sort of dive into continuing with Act 1 of our reading this evening. We have 9 incredible readers, of whom you've only heard one, and our second, who I'm very excited to introduce, is Rae Ball. And Rae Ball grew up in a house full of snakes. She's a history professor, a poet, and a poetry editor at Coffin Bell. Her poems have been nominated for Pushcart and Best of the Net, and have appeared in numerous journals, including Descant, Glass, and Noctua. Rae, thank you so much for joining us. I'm really excited to hear your work, and I know you have a new book coming out too, so I'm excited about that as well.
Thank you so much. I'm going to actually start with 2 poems from that new book, Literarium, coming out technically on December 5th with Variant Lit, but if you order it now, it's 30% off through the end of November. So I'm not usually very good at self-promoting, but Tyler is here, so I felt like I should make sure to actually do that for once. I'm going to start with a poem called Moving Day. Moving Day. They roil and swarm in the frenzy of a feast, more consuming than bloodlust, as they devour the chameleons, sitting in cages lidded with braided wire. An easy entry for the fire ants. It is the work of a few hours to show us the delicate bones of hope. My father will rage as if it was his own flesh that bore their stinging bites, his bones exposed and gleaming. And I will yearn to be able to do anything that would earn me a reaction of that intensity. The next poem that I will read is a pantoum. It's called Burial Instructions. If you feel you must put me in the earth, plant a seed in an eye socket so that it grows from my bone cage. I confess I poisoned a goldfish once. Plant seeds in my eyes and ears. I hope a tree grows and casts latticed shadows. I confess I poisoned a goldfish when I was 13. I used acid from the shelf in my father's lab. I hope a willow grows and casts fleeting shadows, nurtured by decaying cells. I took the acid bottle from the lab shelf. With a pipette, I stole blotches of light from a fish's eye. Nurtured by decay, cells burst from a coffin without a bell. I stole with a dropper water whirls of time from a fish. A certain boy was there, but I shall not mention him. Box me into a coffin without a bell. If you feel you must put me in the earth. I stole water whirls of time from a fish so that they would spill from my bone cage. I thought I would also read something a little bit newer. I wrote this poem this summer, so it's a little bit pandemic heavy and social unrest heavy. It's still looking for a home. It's maybe under review at a couple of places. If anyone has suggestions, let me know. It's called Small Joys Amidst the Turbulence of Pandemic and Social Unrest, and it's after Susan Mitchell. Because it is mid-morning, I take my dog for a walk. And because my dog is a stubborn ass, I must stand at the edge of a neighbor's lawn, rattling a tin of treats and white privilege. The sun is already warm. I fold light right up into my pocket, which knows how to hold on to things, keeping them snug, sometimes through several washings. Light rests against my thigh as I read the will of an Afro-Peruvian woman named Juana Barba, who lived 400 years ago. She gave money to have a cloak made for a statue of the Virgin Mary. All afternoon, my hands braid together tiny strands to weave joy from a multitude of things. Recently, my husband had a cold and not COVID-19. Cilantro tastes light and bright and not like Lysol to me. Storks are nesting high on poles across Andalusia. A coonhound sleeps under my feet. Caramel exists, and I bake it into salty cookies. My nieces are holding a cartwheel contest. From now on, I want to end each day by examining the contents of my right hand pocket. The light cannot belong to any one person. I open my fingers to admire it and let it escape. It swoops across the fireweed and into the throats of chanting protesters. Black Lives Matter. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Rae, for sharing those new poems with us. New shit was going like crazy in the chat while you were reading, and it deserved to, because that, again, was Rae Ball, who is on Twitter at Professor Ball, ProfessorBall, and on Instagram at Running History, all one word. And that sophomore chapbook of Rae's Lorarium is officially out with Variant Lit on December 5th, and a portion of the proceeds from all the November pre-orders will go to the Sierra Club Foundation to support its important conservation efforts. So you can go to variantlit.com and find information about Lorarium. And again, please pre-order it in the next couple of weeks so we can benefit the Sierra Club as well. Thank you again so much, Rae. That was wonderful, and I'm really excited for Lorarium, as with everyone else in this chat who's blown it up with how excited they are. So yeah, it's really like sort of blowing my mind how quickly time passes and how slowly it does at the same time. But we're already to our third reader, who I'm very, very excited to introduce as Khalisa Rae. And Khalisa Rae is a poet and journalist in Durham, North Carolina. Her work can be seen in Homology, Hellbore, Terse, Sundog Lit, Pank, Tishman Review, Oculum, The Obsidian, among other places. She's the winner of the Furious Flower Gwendolyn Brooks Poetry Prize, the White Stag Publishing Contest, among others, and currently she serves as managing editor at Carve magazine. Her debut collection, Ghost in a Black Girl's Throat, are forthcoming from Red Hen Press in 2021. Thank you so much for joining us, Khalisa. Take it away.
Hey. So first I want to say thank you so much, Kristin and Tom, for having me. I'm super excited to share these poems for my my forthcoming collection, Ghost in a Black Girl's Throat. When I read, I like to read fun stuff. So some of the stuff you might not find online because it's one of those pieces, this first one that I'm going to do that's really fun to read. I like to use it to break the ice, and then we'll get into some other stuff. But this is called Exit Speech. This is in my forthcoming collection, Ghost in a Black Girl's Throat. And so just the little epigraph and the little background story about this piece. So I researched Michelle Obama and her eating campaign for healthy eating and healthy lifestyles. And she became the spokesperson for Subway a long time ago. And the comments that people were saying when she became the spokesperson, and well, I was appalled. So this is for the people that boycotted her being the spokesperson. Exit speech. Call her monkey, mammy, picking it. Call her common, unworthy of sitting on white throne. Call her black ink spot in your psychological exam. Call her tar baby blues bitch. Call her Negro nigga never made it. Call her heretic communist. Call her black cloud raining over white skies. Say that nothing black will ever guide your tongue. Say that nothing the color of soot and sawdust will ever tell you what to put in your mouth. Well, I seem to remember massa. I seem to remember how we stirring wooden spoon, mixing magic in kitchen, mixing fried freedom of forms of large smothered dough and fat back, how we ham-hocked our way onto your dinner table. Smothered peas and pork chops, peach cobbler slithered our necks unto your dining room, how we collard green glided onto plate into mouth, how we spicy scrambled eggs and flapjacked onto your fork, how we hot water cornbread coaxed our way onto your dinner tables and you ate every bit of us. You sopped us up with butter and molasses, biscuit and butter, and drowned us down with tooth-aching sweet tea. And you loved our sugar. You licked us off your fingers and begged for seconds. We, the cook, the server, the dishwasher, the background music to your meals, singing food so good we stuck our foot in it, singing all that sweat and spit went into that soup. And you ignored our forthright song, your bellies full with greed. We have been the decider of what meanders into your cotton mouths for centuries, you smug snake. You have been tasting our sweat and tears, jagged Jehovah notes floating into every recipe. Been tasting our sorrow and sincerest hate for centuries. So take a seat at our table. Let us fix you one final plate of harsh reality. I hope it goes down like gumbo glass slivers. So when you start to boycott, when you warm your throat to speak, you will feel how deeply we rest on your tongue. Thank you. So that was exit speech. I like to read drastically different pieces back to back. So here is Mackerel. When I was 12 or 13, my mother caught me and a female friend bouncing our vaginas off the end of a bedpost like live bait. Our bodies rubbing against the maple wood, trying to catch a spark on a cold, hard thing between our legs was an awakening. The mesquite of our innocence rising to the living room where my mother and her friend sat talking. And we were just at the point of falling off the bone. The moment when the pink of the salmon is so tender, when my mother opened the door, doused our flames with holy water, and made us promise to forget the sweet communion of burning. Years after she scrubbed the cedar from our clothes, I learned that my body is only alive when it is free to choose when and where it starts a fire. How long it allows itself to be wet and waiting, the power comes in knowing that my body is no tadpole, no fish to roast over hot coals. It is the flame itself, the blue and red ghost that survives even after the smoke clears. That's Mackerel. I'm gonna keep it rolling into my final piece. I researched, so back when they said that Harriet Tubman was supposed to be on the front of the $20 bill, I decided to write a persona piece from her perspective called Mahalia Sing Freedom. And it has an epigraph that says, I had crossed the line, I was free, but there was no one there to welcome me to the land of freedom. I was a stranger in a strange land. That's Harriet Tubman. And I am stranger still a face no one recognizes, still an excuse to clutch purse first and ask questions later, still a reason to shoot, then investigate, still a reason to attach false crimes to my name. Always a barely human body, and how I arrived here will be a mystery. My captor repeating the same investigation, how I managed to trudge to freedom after traversing this terrain like bondage is just something I got over, as if a stump, a hill, a broken heart. And like I ain't belly crawl and scrape through mud and shit, 1,000 miles tunnels just to get here. How did I make it over? My captors will ask and wonder, cock head to side, perplexed at how my cracked skin and wrinkled brow broke free and stumbled on the cover of Currency. And this gentle arrival will be enough to convince me of fleeing captivity. How did I make it over? How does any fugitive arrive? Rope burn still fresh and bleeding, bandaged back still raw, sullied and soil covered, and still I made it over. But I never did forget the scars etched in my skin or the bounty on my head, worth more than the sum of me. Thank y'all so much for having me. Please pre-order my forthcoming book, Ghost in a Black Girl's Throat, available worldwide. Thank y'all so much for having me.
Holy shit, Khalisa, thank you. That was spectacular. We have to pick our jaws up off the floor just to like get back to my documents so I can brag about how awesome your book is too. So again, that was Khalisa Rae, who you can find on Twitter at K_Lisa Rae. So K_LISARAE. Please follow her there. And also, like Khalisa mentioned, you can find her books on KhalisaRae.com, which is KHALISARAE.com. That book, again, Ghost in a Black Girl's Throat, is debuting with Red Hen Press, in April 2021. And also, she's got another book coming out in summer 2021 called Unlearning Eden. So please follow, be aware, be ready, because we weren't, and it was amazing. So that was also pretty cool. But yeah, wow, what an end to what I'm calling Act 1 of this beautiful, beautiful reading order. Thank you so much, Khalisa. So to begin Act 2 in my crude 333 division of things, I'm really also very excited to introduce Todd Dillard. And Todd Dillard's work has appeared in numerous publications, including Fairy Tale Review, Had, a wonderful venue, Electric Literature, Booth, and Ruminate. His debut collection of poetry, Ways We Vanish, was released this year by OK Donkey Press. Thank you so much, Todd, for being with us tonight, and thank you for sharing some poems with us.
Thanks, everybody. Actually, I'm going to start with one of my poems that was in HAD. My book, Ways We Vanish, is about a narrator who's effectively dealing with a lot of childhood trauma and a mom who passed away in unfortunate circumstances. And this poem, Mom Hires a Stunt Double, is sort of my response to having written a lot of poems about grief and being sick of writing about grief. So Mom Hires a Stunt Double. Sick of all the impossible I ask of her in these my griefiest poems, Mom hires a stunt double. Same white hair, same laugh, same false teeth, same dead. Now, when I write Mom curls like rinds in a bowl, it's her stunt double twisting herself into pithy canoes. When I write, at night my mother sheds the skin of my mother, revealing more mother, it's her stunt double that unzips her body, stands there, all shiver and muscle and tendon, waiting for the next line. What's in it for you? I ask, and Mom's stunt double shrugs, lighting one of those familiar Turkish silvers as behind her my mother mounts a Harley and barrels into the margins. You're a good kid, the double says, but she doesn't touch my hair. This close to her, her eyes are all pupil, all ink, her smell, paper and snow. When she exhales, smoke spills from her lips and unfolds into horses. This next poem is coming out next month with U City Review. And it's one of the first poems, again, I wrote after my book, and it's just kind of dealing with life. Someone has to polish the statues on top of skyscrapers, which means someone has, ladder in hand, leather harness strapped to their gut, keychain jangle of S-clips and buckles clamoring at their hips, climbed the brow of morning fog when the night before their wife served them divorce papers, has winched and shimmied and bloody-knuckled up, has smeared polishing goop on long-dead, green-cloyed faces, has, fingernails moon-crescented by the soil of their brother's grave, brought a rag to copper cheeks, bronze helmets, brass flanks of a rearing stallion, has interred the murk, the gunk, the pigeon shit scabs of yesterday into a mausoleum of bright, has done this on those clearest days when gravity's argument is the most profound, impossible to say no to, has said no anyway, has hovered over Earth with a God's eye view of every car wreck, every held up gas station, every ambulance gutted block, and chosen the work still to do, the shine. This next poem is inspired by a YouTube video that I saw on Twitter. And it's also, I'm reading it inspired by you guys shouting new shit. So here's some new shit. Here we go. Wing walkers. You can do anything if you set your mind to it. Has nothing to do with changing a tire on an airplane mid-flight. But it's what I think about after watching a woman, tire looped over her shoulder like the strap of a purse, creep along a prop plane wing to hop onto another plane, monkey down to the axle, fasten the tire in place, then ladder up to the cockpit to give the shaky camera a thumbs up. In spite of knowing she'll be okay, I want to watch her die a little. Slip, a stumble, the tire sloughed off her shoulder and caught at the last second in her hand, the panic of which shaves off minutes of her life, time tipped like crumbs from a bag of chips into death's lipless mouth. Once, when I was 9, I built wings, using coat hangers, a bolt of jet chiffon, bags of black feathers, and a roll of twine bought with a summer's worth of pool cleaning money. I climbed onto the roof, slipped the harness onto my shoulders, teetered on the edge, and when I fell beautifully, a little death of air and rags, feathers, wire, string. I want to see in the woman what I felt rise up in me, a flicker like a hawk's shadow, then touchdown, safety, a puff of dust as the plane straddles the runway, the traffic light of 2 scraped knees, the world still the world, and also alien somehow, except for its offer of pain that feels like relief. And this is my last poem. It's one of the final poems in my collection. It's sort of a send-off to grief. It's called The Rabbits. On my back porch, I chat with an empty chair about the empire of rabbits beneath my shed. How blessed their pellet shits make me feel, because once I rented a Brooklyn closet, and now I have a house, yards of yard, wild rabbits and their prolific craps to deal with. The emptiness, I tell it about my father's coma, how he writhed like a puppet sinking into a vat of molasses, and when he woke up, he told me the dark was a kind of burning, then looked at me as if I could tell him why. I explain how my daughter refuses to believe night exists and thinks instead a great weather blankets the sky. So when the last bedtime song is sung, she says a storm is coming and not good night. Sometimes the emptiness likes to flirt, tries to hold my hands, so I keep them busy. I scrape soil off trowels with a silver spoon. I swirl a thumb into a beer's head. I count the rabbits emerging in twilight, dozens of them, devouring my tulips, my clovers, the weeds strangling my lawn. And the absence beside me stands up, stretches, larger and larger it swells, a vacancy blossoming like a sail, like dawn, bigger than the yard, the house, bigger than the neighborhood. So big, it's like it's everywhere. So everywhere, it's like it's gone. Thank you again for having me. I'm so honored to be a part of this amazing group of readers. And again, if you have it in you, please buy my book, Ways We Vanish, out from OK Donkey.
Thank you so much, Todd. That was a wonderful, wonderful inauguration of Act 2. And that, again, was Todd Dillard, who you can find on Twitter at Todd E. Dillard, TODDEDILLARD. And you can find that book, Ways We Vanish, at okdonkeymag.bigcartel.com. OKDonkey doing some amazing work, as always. And that's Ways We Vanish by Todd Dillard that everyone should pick up because it just blew us all collectively away. Yeah, and like the chat's blowing up with like, Todd, give a craft talk on this. Todd, give a craft talk on that. And we're all like, yes, we will all attend all the craft talks by Todd. And I think that's right. So without any further ado, I'm very excited to introduce the exact midpoint of our reading order, Madeleine Corley. And Madeleine Corley is a writer by internal monologue and adores her Mystery Machine Converse. She currently serves as poetry editor at Barron Magazine. She lives in Atlanta and drinks too much coffee. Madeleine, thank you so much for joining us and keeping all this beautiful poetry steam rolling.
I gotta unmute myself. Hi, everyone. I just got really excited, nervous. All day I've been chill, yeah, this is gonna be great. And now I'm just the adrenaline's pumping. So we're gonna see how this goes. The first one I'm going to read is a poem that I wrote after a dream that I had. And it was very vivid, and somehow I made it into a poem that made sense theoretically. And I sent it to Had, and they were like, this is ridiculous. Will you love it? So this is, yes, this is Dream Where I Yell. This is The Bad Place. On an auditorium stage, I am fucking up guitar at Tom Petty's reunion tour, although Tom Petty has been dead for just under 5 years, and this room has collected moths and nippled sconces like platinum drama club trophies in what I think is my high school before they tore it down the same year Tom Petty died learning to fly. And these people keep looking at me as I fumble through a song about waves, forgetting about that hurricane leveling most all of this non-town with a ferocity only fabled at the Baptist church a couple miles east. So after the E string breaks and Tom cradles a fly fallen dead from its grime-kissed light, he drops it in the mouth of my guitar as if some hum of breaking will surely wake me up. That's the first one. Also, go watch The Good Place if you haven't seen it already, because that's where the title's from. The next one is a poem that came out yesterday It's called Gardener. It's at Tramset, and it's a shorty, but I like it. So, Gardener. Last night, I buoyed a lightning bug after it fell in olive oil. 45 minutes we sat, its wings soiled and incapable of flight. I counted hundreds of bright glittered bursts while it preened on the tip of my finger. I'm not saying I'll grow anything grand, piano, hyacinth, meaningful gestures. There are worlds I rarely watch. I do so little with my hands. That's Gardener. And I saved a lightning bug once, so that's kind of what that's based on. I had a couple, I want to read this one because it's a nice little love poem that I wrote after being obsessed with Carly Rae Jepsen for a couple weeks. So this is after Run Away With Me. It began as a golden shovel and then turned into something else, and I just really like it. And it was a plum recruit. So, Run Away With Me. Run me a highway studded diamond. My laugh lines the median and your shoulder blades the siding. I could coast here forever, where what I'll be tomorrow don't matter in the midnight. Where headlights, hickey vision, and swanning hands find a deep, thick with molten silver. I slide into your car, an atlas still burning. How many nights I've cruised in the hum of your axles, the weight of our frames, while a storm outside the windows streaks your Volvo's glass in pebbles. Before we met, pavement churned up dust just for the whim of it, never satisfied with sun's light. The summer we began our nightly drives, I noticed your tires rippling the dirt, plumes swirling at our beaming red taillights. I rolled down the passenger window to feather torn pages, looked behind as they breadcrumb the breeze. If they worry, then let them. I have nothing else left here. I took my suitcase, guitar, and what remains of the cat. We bargained our past with the wind, stole away at first kiss of dark, just me and you and you and you. You should also go listen to Emotion. It's the best album of the 2010s, so there's that plug. And then the last one, I was going back and forth. Both of the two new things that I want to read, like they got a tinge to them. They're like saddish. I don't know. This one I wrote after I decided that the moon was going to be cake. And so this poem, new poem, it's called The Moon is Cake. I want to keep it in my gift shop on a crystal tray beside travel books and blueberry scones. It'll be too large at first to float under my grandmother's glass cake dome, so I'll slice and serve its craters paired with loose leaf teas. And after the local paper writes my story, The Woman Who Serves the Moon, the news will syrup the nation. Tourists will flock, marveling the icing before I carve them their own bite. Everyone will tell me what flavor they taste. Finished novel, new baby, one last conversation with their brother. Months pass and the moon shrinks in size, nights growing darker each week. The crowds begin to dissipate. When the last few ask me what I taste, I tell them plain tickets to anywhere. Not the sour bit of knowing nothing will make me full. Thanks so much. Those are my poems. Thanks for having me. Y'all are awesome. This is great. Love being the midpoint.
Thank you, Maddie. Thanks so much for sharing those poems and for continuing the grand performance anxiety tradition of new shit. We appreciate it very much. And that, again, was Madeleine Corley, who you can find on Twitter at Madelinksi, MaDelinksi, on Twitter, and at Wrote Madeleine on Instagram, WroteMadeleine. And WroteMadeleine.com is also her website, and she adores Baron magazine. We need to shout out Baron, at which Maddie serves as the poetry editor. So thank you again, Maddie, for joining us, for taking the brave middle spot and blowing it away. So as we enter the back half of our order, which is always a little sad, but it can't be sad because our next reader is Jason B. Crawford. And Jason B. Crawford is a Black, non-binary, bi-poly-queer writer born in Washington, D.C., raised in Lansing, Michigan. Their debut chapbook collection, Summertime Fine, is out through Variant Lit. Variant Lit is absolutely killing it, this performance anxiety reading. And their second chapbook, Twerkable Moments, is due out from Paper Nautilus Press in 2021. Thank you, Jason, so much for being with us. Take it away.
Thanks for having me. I'm going to disappoint Taylor because I'm not going to read what she thought I was going to read. And I'm actually very excited about actually disappointing Taylor because she's my little sister and I love her. So this poem is called The Gods. Tell the body I want the knees back, or tell the doctors, or tell the Naismith gods. Oh, holy peach basket, how often I call the gym a confessional booth. The red clay kicked up in commencement of my drills. The righteous free throws, the old coach proverbs, to never leave the gym on a miss. We spend hours catapulting the ball at the rim as offering, and we call this a prayer. The body giving the last bone to the church. I mean, the gym. I mean, the tide is what keeps the lights on in this place of worship. The congregation starts to chant, but only booms like defense. And the crowd can only say "and one" so many times before it starts to sound like amen. And maybe that is too a hymn. Check the playbook. I mean, the Bible, because this isn't the bench a full table of disciples. Each game a last supper. That must mean my own body is Judas. What will it give to this floor to survive? So I'm gonna read a new poem too. And I've been doing these really cool prose poems that either stay prose or don't stay prose. Who knows? But it starts off as a prose poem, and it's a lot of memory, like very specific memory. So this one's called "The Last Fight I Got Into Was Over a Dr. Pepper," and it's for Ricardo's bitch ass. And let the record show I let him swing first. It was wild, vine heaved at my skull like a rogue axe, missing the open field of my right jaw as I, not fully ducking, but sidestepped out of his spike's fist's reach, grabbed him by the shoulders and slammed him across the locker room floor. And he didn't do it until the third time I told him to do it, only because I wonder if he truly would, if under the lights of all these shiny new phones and brooding smiled boys, he would become a pro boxer, a wrestler, a kung fu master, the clampering cloud egging on his confidence, the annoying way he wanted to be cool and I wanted to be cool, and nothing was cooler than a fight in the boys' locker room where there are no teachers to play barricade, and he would pick fights with everyone he knew he could lose to. I waited patiently, poking at him with my words like a stick, testing how macho his manhood was in his chest and in his pants, but I couldn't do anything until he threw the first throw, a closed palm aimed at my nose like a scoped bullet, and I just moved out the way, hands readied to return his blood to the dirt. So I'm gonna read one more poem, and Taylor, you get one. I guess I'm gonna brush up my singing vocals. This was actually in HAD last week. So this is called "In Defense of Being Off Key to a Mariah Song." It's not that I'm trying to fold glass into an unclean split. I just know all of the words without all of the melodies sometimes. The mouth opens and moths fly out with clawed wings, and true, in that moment, it's too late to swallow back the note. Plus, clearly, the past cannot be undone, so why stop singing because of one flat screech? Who among us has hit the chorus of emotions and not tried a Mariah whistle that slices at the tender meat of a vocal cord? It's in our nature to mimic the wild, and I do. Barrel, jaw, tongue, swinging back and forth like a digging metronome. You've got me feeling emotions deeper than I ever dreamed of. Oh, oh. Each creak of the voice, a jagged river, flowing into another body, flowing into another body, flowing into another body, flowing into another body, the endless joy, running joy. A room packed with lungs shrilling at brick walls. Not a single run able to weave together into a crescendo of collapsed breathing. But we are all just giggling to the song. And ain't that the point of all this? Emotion. All of us together in a small basement off Normal. 2 bottles of Jose and not enough limes to go around. The right tune escaping all of our grasp. Our hands spilling with laughter now. Each time someone's voice cracks open and makes more room for our joy to come inside. Thank y'all.
Wow, Jason, that was spectacular. Thank you for being the first brave soul tonight to sing on performance anxiety. That is so important, and I'm so glad that there was space made for that practice. That, again, was Jason B. Crawford, who you can find on Twitter and the socials in general at Jason B. Crawford, JASONBCRAWFORD. And please, please, please check out Summertime Fine from Variant Lit, and then Twerkable Moments is going to be due out next year from Paper Nautilus Press. They're both chapbooks, and Jason, I saw that tweet earlier. They better not be your last. That's just me. But anyway, thank you, Jason, so much for carrying us firmly and happily into the back half of our order, which continues with Lannie Stabile. And Lannie Stabile is the winner of Outright's 2020 chapbook competition in poetry. The winning chapbook, Strange Furniture, is out with Neon Hemlock Press. She's also a back-to-back finalist for the 2019-2020 and the 2020-2021 Glass Chapbook Series, and back-to-back semifinalists for the Button Poetry 2018 and 2019 chapbook contests. So thank you so much, Lannie, for being here with us. Take it away.
Lost my mouse for a second. I was like, where was it? I just want to say I'm so happy to be part of this group. The talent is blowing me away. Like, even people I've read before, I'm like, oh my gosh, this is a crazy night. But thank you for having me. So I've been thinking a lot about the pandemic, obviously, as everybody is. But I've been thinking about it in the terms of what it's bringing me. And that is an excuse not to go to my family's for the holidays. Yes, I look for one every year. So I wanted to read a few pieces from Strange Furniture because it is about family. And there is actually a Thanksgiving poem in here. So to start, I'd like to read a piece about my brother, which is here somewhere. There it is, called Sibling Rivalry. He starts the conversation with, "I don't always agree with the things you do," followed by a long list of things he does not always agree with that I do. Of course, I cannot get offended because my brother ends with, "But I still love you because you're family." 20% of meerkats are killed by their own kind. If she senses a defect, a mother hamster will eat her tiny pink pups. Hyena cubs often attack siblings not yet emerged from the amniotic sac. And once I called the police when his hands gnawed at my throat.
And I'd also like to read a poem about my father. This piece has never been published anywhere, and I think it's because of the title. I was just talking to Maddie about that, but it's a very important title to me. It is called I Love You Like Baby Hitler Loved His Easy Bake Oven. As a teen, I spent my days unraveling hormones and limbs and identity. Within months of nascent breasts, I discovered I could brand myself, could press a searing iron to the flesh of my own forearm before anyone could tattoo it. I was the token Jew. Not the religion or the nation, but the people, I insisted. Hailing from my father's blood, which did not pitch me into the welcoming brickbat of Judaism, but still friends interrogated me about Hanukkah, which I celebrated exactly once, in an attempt to break bread with my dead father. My mother was alive and well and German. Even without her absolute Aryan features, I was a walking contradiction, a conflict of interest. I was willed to hate myself. I grew adept at laughing through the cheap shots, at my supposed innate frugality. After all, I could discern a cent from a dime by the sound of its rattle. I became so skilled at self-deprecation, I would sling vicious jokes before anyone else could. Even my expression of love was a grossly insensitive punchline. I guess that was the self-loathing. Because what kind of Jew lets her friends tell her she can ride in the ashtray with all the other Holocaust victims? The dust of my ancestry escaping at 90 miles per hour on the freeway as we all slam our hands into the car roof with every blacked out headlight. And the last poem, this is the Thanksgiving one, called Explaining My Introversion to a Genocidist Sympathizer. My mother spoons strangers into the living room like heaping mashed potatoes. She's been fasting all year and her jaw is unsnapped, ready for gravy boats of colonizers. She places strange hands on the bird, says they've earned carving rights just for invading our small country. My mother minces the cloves of her ears, stashes them into breadcrumbs with a dash of salt and pepper and blind eye. She will never understand, amid all this feast in my belly, I am starving. My mother awaits the fleet with armfuls of corn, golden and without nutrients, like currency. Every year she offers more of herself, and they stalk our home with bayonet eyes and musket hands. Ever present, they grow in the fields now, godlike and vine-like, crawling all over my body, convinced they can convert our heathenry to a new world in which we're swallowed. My mother does not sow grains of solitude, so her artful fingers cannot taste the poison in the soil. Thank you, and happy Thanksgiving, I guess.
Thank you so much, Lannie, for that. I'm going to be staring vacantly into space in like a week, and someone's going to be like, what are you thinking about? And I'm going to be like, oh, baby Hitler and his easy bake oven. And, you know, then I'll have a lot of explaining to do. But again, that was Lannie Stabile, who just charmed us with some incredible poems, some of which may have been in Strange Furniture, which again was the winner of Outright's 2020 chapbook competition in poetry. It's a series dealing with the trauma of growing up within a selfish and toxic family, and please check it out. Also, check out Lannie's socials on Twitter at Lannie Stabile, LANNIESTABILE, and on Instagram at Lannie_Stabile, same spelling. Also, Little Masticated Darlings from Wild Press Books is a microchap about a Michigan serial killer that you can also get. Again, yeah, poems. Thank you so much. Oh, yeah, I'm like still reeling from the images and from like, how am I going to explain that when I'm inevitably thinking of it in a week? So I'm always kind of sad to get to the latter couple of readers, but I'm very excited to introduce a person who's new to performance anxiety, but whose work is extremely exciting, and that's Gaia Rajan. And Gaia Rajan is the web manager for Honey Literary, the managing editor of The Courant, and the poetry editor of Saffron Literary. Her work has previously appeared or is forthcoming in Dialogist, Up the Staircase Quarterly, Split Lip Magazine, Hobart, and elsewhere. Her chapbook, Moth Funerals, is forthcoming from none other than Glass Poetry Press in the fall. Thank you so much, Gaia, for being here with us tonight. Take it away.
Thank you so much. Can you guys hear me? Yeah? Okay, I'm assuming so. Okay, thank you so much. I'm really excited to be here, and I've just been blown away by everyone. Thank you for that amazing intro. So I'll start with a poem from my forthcoming chapbook. It's from a series called the Short Answer series because I'm still in school. I'm 16. So I was writing random short answer poems during class. Short answer number 3, Passive Voice. My favorite song growing up was Hither Delilah, and the band wrote it about a girl they'd glimpsed on the street just once. And when they showed it to her, she smiled politely, thinking they'd take her as the stars blinked, as the sky threatened night, and that must mean something. I want it to mean something, because last night I heard the chirp of a car alarm and thought it must be the small terror of a woman screaming, and I forced open the curtains and stared out into the dark road strewn with rain to look for a hand clapping over a mouth, heels inscribing pavement, and found only my reflection against the glass. And I don't know why I do this, why I line up the times I've shivered in the dark like a quiver of arrows, why I memorize the sound bites on the news and how they never name the man, why when my second grade teacher said, memorize this, passive voice is something that happens to a person, I think she must have known the future. And here's the second poem. This is new stuff because everyone's been reading new work. So this title actually was invented by Madeleine. So thank you because you're amazing at titles. It's called Simple Machines. At 11, I stole a lisp from my parents, slipped past silent seams of brick, past slouching yards and surveilling fields, past the stray dog still wearing its owner's collar, past the trappings of dead animals and the splintering lanterns in perfect hunting lodges, past the people and their economies of sweat and the gym called Manifest Your Destiny into the speech classroom's projector spotlight. There's more steel in English than you would believe. In my textbooks, men invented new machines to turn people into ghosts, to sheathe all senses in fresh blood. The woman in speech class asked all who hadn't broken their mouths yet to circle the nouns, mark the verbs, buck the horse, stolen accent, evidence of stagnancy, a cycle of innovation, pulley into crank into guillotine. The inventions grew more beautiful, more deadly, artful casket, gorgeous cage. I learned how to speak so they could ruin me, an imitation of a voice. All of this is progress. I excelled in speech class, my mouth rinsed out clean with white heat, controlled vocabularies of so much blood. On days I can't speak, this is where I go. Interrogation room, gunmetal smile, grateful machines, the coldest tongues. And I think I still have time. Do I have time? Yeah? Okay. So I have one more poem. This is forthcoming from Split Lip next spring, and it's one of my favorites that I've ever written. It's called Pine Street. There's a game we used to play called Mercy. Someone twisted your arm back so tendons almost bolted through skin. The boy whispered in my ear, call mercy. You know you're just a girl. I'll stop if you call. Just do it. I felt gasps until everyone else surrendered to the sidewalk, until a scream swelled through my throat, until streetlights smeared into drop dimes. I swear, I waited the longest of anyone. 8 years later, an old woman on the same street said, you're so strong, I don't know how you do it. Cupped her hands on my forehead, passed them through my translucent form as if to give a blessing, her breath rising sour into my mouth. I was admired, though I was not loved, an image of a girl, but never the girl. The holy men said, your life is a battle you win through prayer, amen. And the entire pew stood as if to attention, cheers bleeding outward. I could never leave that street. And when all the poplars shriveled up, I painted them forest green. I hid my gentleness like a wound. And so, when I glimpsed something, a deer, flashing through those wooded backyards, those tiny metallic sparks, of course I assumed it had to be a dagger. What wouldn't you believe? It'd be victorious. I mean, alive. I scurried off into the smallest burrows to fight alone, orphaned myself and called it liberation, left my body at the altar of anything that flinched. The dirt liked blood, and I learned it. Returned on my knees, studied how to hold a shout, my arms unhinging, watched as I was buried. The dark so full of bride, a knife sutured to my throat, something weak in me, beginning generously to cry. That's it. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, Gaia. And that again was Gaia Rajan, who is all kinds of things. And it's amazing to me because I teach high school, and high school is hard as hell right now. And to be doing high school and also writing poems like that is phenomenal. So I hope that there's many literary magazines. Obviously, there are plenty that are, giving these space. And that was, again, Gaia Rajan, who you can find on Twitter at Gaia_writes, because you do not want to sleep on these poems, GAIA_WRITES on Twitter. And please go to glass-poetry.com so you can pre-order Gaia's chapbook, Moth Funerals, that is forthcoming from Glass Poetry this fall. Wow. So again, it's always a little sad, but we're always so hyped at the same time to come to our last reader of a performance anxiety reading. And I'm very happy to welcome back one of our all-stars of performance anxiety, who has read several times with us and who surprises me every time, and that's Sara Matson. And Sara Matson's poetry has been nominated for Best in the Net 2019, and it can be found or is forthcoming in Impossible Task, Bone Bouquet, The Journal Petra, and elsewhere. Sara's chapbook, Electric Grandma, is now available from Another New Calligraphy, a wonderful press, and her chaplet, Forgotten Women in Science, is available from Damaged Goods Press. Sara's quarantined in Chicago with her rad husband and cats, and tweets at Skeletor Writes, which is at SKELETORWRITES, and she's at Skeletor's mom on Instagram. So Sara, take it away. Thank you for closing out our order this evening.
Zowie, thank you so much, Tom and Kristin, for having me back. It has been such an incredible show tonight, and I'm so thankful to be here reading with you incredible folks. Really amazing. My very first poem tonight is an excerpt of a longer project, which is totally new for me. This is actually all new shit. Y'all inspired me. We're gonna shit it, we're gonna shat it. This one is temporarily called Housebound. Housebound. Shut and smelling like the cheese you lied about. Green and orange dinosaurs behind my eyes appear again, life sprung from squeezing. I could be micronapping just for hours at a time. My uncle laughing always makes me laugh, capturing authenticity like a holographic bug, dried between pages, a leaf. My insides shred themselves while clever beasts play the violin out of turn and call my heart their own. Perhaps it's not about authenticity. Is anything anymore? But optics, customer support. No, as in ye olden days, not golden like the color, like my homeless molar, like midday yesterday, like the shovel around my neck, like every song I've heard worn cleverly just above the brow, below the mandible, above the manacle, between the maniacal. Headache crawling up my ass crack, I press repeat, or the approximation of repeat, squiggly lines with arrows facing each other, twisted around together like lovers. Is this how you describe something? Is this how you describe something? Why can't I just live repeating what I see? Why can't I live repeating what I see? I tell my child, I tell myself, I am meant to be here for his whole life. And while I tried to change it, I couldn't. The agonizing truth, and honestly, all truth is agonizing. A line in this poem is a lie. Does that bother you? Me either. I don't understand the concept of lying, but obviously, protection. Thoughts run past my eyes in flashy Nikes, and sometimes I grab their fleshy cheeks and ask into their elbows, slow down, like a sad, joyless lifeguard. What is it about cold that means clean? And my last poem for tonight is called One Day. One day I too will be an orphan. By naming my fears, I claim the power they hold over me. Blasting movie scores, video chatting, sitting in a W like a teenager. Blue staining the soles of my feet. Dad laughed when I suggested family therapy. My nieces won't remember their great-grandparents except for the repeated treasures we tell about our dead and beloved. She loved playing piano and chocolate chip ice cream. Her recipe is the only one that counts. Her accent was thick like stew. My memories bleed. They're alive and fucking inside my ribcage. My memories make my muscles ache, tear out those tiny spots that appear blank in my field of vision. My mom once called these floaters. How long will my back hold out? Breathing so rhythmic, you could dance to it. I whisper to my eyes, but they're the betrayers already welled, slightly downturned despite the calming screams of my ancestry and the devastation of every woman before me. It's a loss that turns you. I will pick the garlic bits from my teeth and accept the unlimited access I am offered. It's all in the minor note, like stringed cages. Force the spine of it all to my desire. The frantic excuse at fealty, I worship no thing, only feelings rooted at the base of my neck. I'm Sara Matson. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Sara, for closing us out on such an incredible note. Again, that was Sara Matson, who you can find on the socials at Skeletor Writes on Twitter, SKELETORWRITES, and at Skeletor's Mom, all one word, on Instagram. And please check out Sara's chapbook, Electric Grandma, from Another New Calligraphy, and her chaplet, Forgotten Women in Science, from Damaged Goods Press. Wow, yeah, I'm always weirdly, enervated, but also just like amped up and whatever at the end of these. It's so hard to pinpoint exactly where one is once one's been torn through with all these incredible poems. But thank you above all so much to all of our readers for sharing their incredible work with us this evening. And thank you too to our listeners for giving this hour plus of your lives over to poetry. And I hope if you're listening, you might consider dropping us a line at Performance Anxiety on Twitter, PERFORMANCEANXT on Twitter, or at my email, which is tomsnarsky@gmail.com. We would love to have you share your work at a future event and join the company of the amazing, amazing people you just heard. Our next reading is going to be on December 17th at 9 p.m. Eastern, 8 p.m. Central. There are definitely slots still open. Tell your friends, all that good stuff. And as just a very small closing gesture, I'm going to read a quick poem. I'm glad Sara mentioned memory. Sara's memories were doing some dirty in the rib cage, but this is a different poem about memory. It's by one of my favorite poets writing. It's a poem that's been really close to my heart all pandemic, and it's called Memory by Laura Jensen. The falcon is directed by an arm, flies into the sky, and does not return. The falconer stands, astonished, dangling the leather hood. A little wine, some mild laughing, and the king forgets. But the falconer lies in bed, staring at the ceiling or the plate of stars at the bare window. Then, in the dark, there is a sound, and the bird has returned to him, knowing the way by night, flying into the falconer's chamber. Proud as a cat, it drops the prey, a debt. It looks at the man with one eye, speaks in one of the falcon dialects, unable to express where it has been as it toured the sky. Did it follow above the lake, the village, forest and mountain? Does it recall? By night, a forgotten name will rise to the unfortunate who stood there silent and foolish by day. The falcon knows the falconer with both its eyes. Like memory, it returned when it was unexpected. Like memory, it is a weight on the arm, missed sorely when it is missing.